What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fine, Eric Sheetshaber. And the one thing that's guaranteed is every time we come on at 6 Eastern, we are going to hear about a player being ruled out at 6 Eastern. So Derek White and Sam Hauser are both out for Boston.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
So stick with the trend. But I didn't get a chance. And by the way, I'll probably be here till about 6:35. That's going to be sort of my normal thing for basketball, just because I do like to hand edit a couple things and tweak a couple things. Also, I want to make sure I have time to get my updated exposures to the site members. So Sheets, I guess first I want to start with how did yesterday go for you? Anything good?
Oh, you didn't see me post? Yeah, no, I did really nicely in the showdown yesterday, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I got like third in the Wildcat or something, like sixth in the field.
Oh yeah, I did see it. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And then it's funny, and then I got butted out of I was going to hit for 20K in the lottery before the last Mahomes to Pirine. But that moved me up a couple of thousand in the other one because I had a Pirine in like a Wildcat or something like that moved me up a couple of spots. But overall, classic slate, not so terrific. But that showdown made like 10,000 for the day, which is nice.
That's great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Take that every day.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't have a great day myself. I did have a pretty good lineup in the 44-44, which finished.
Oh, wow.
It ended up finishing in 49th place. It was a little.
Well, that made the money, right?
Yeah. But it was it had some chances. I just needed, I had Kelsey in the lineup, so that didn't help. I had just the wrong tight end combination, but everything else was basically the nuts in that lineup. So could have gotten there, just didn't quite get the right build done right with Mahomes and all that. And was very impressed by Philadelphia yesterday. I got that game wrong. Got to take the L. Got the other part right, and both overs I got right.
So I was sort of impressed by all four teams. I thought they all played nicely. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
I thought Washington had their moments. Just a couple of a fumble here and there, and you saw Zach Ertz freaking just have a day. You know what I mean? And I thought everybody played. Everybody played well. I thought,
given how much pressure he was,
kind of curious that I don't want to say he got out coached, but I mean. That whole thing with Kansas City being completely ready for every single one of those quarterback sneaks to the left.
Yeah.
And Romo even said it beforehand. He's like, well, you're going to go to the left, and everybody knows it. And they were all stacked up ready for it, and Buffalo never adjusted. Which was a little surprising. And then it came right down to the end. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it was a good game.
Right, and if it comes down to the end, it's usually going to be Kansas City wins the game. That's
usually, listen, Buffalo had their chance. They had a fourth and whatever. And if they may complete that fourth down, then then they're in business.
That's right. I mean, and by the way, it's amazing that pass actually got to Kincaid. He had a chance at it.
Yeah, just amazing.
But I agree with you. I actually thought that overlooked was that Baltimore got beaten down, but Washington got beaten down. But I was really impressed by Daniels. I thought he played extreme, given how much pressure he was under for most of the game. Especially in the first half, I thought he did an incredible job. I mean, the 4 fourth down conversions in a row and all that. So a good day of football.
And listen, obviously the coach has his index card. You know what I mean? Like they making their right decisions, and they're set up for success over there with Jaden Daniels. Like they just are. I don't know. They have to. We'll see what happens over there in Philly. This is their. This is a shot, and then Philly, KC, and this is, we'll see how it goes. The spread is pretty much exactly what I thought it was going to be. I still think that you might get the pseudo sharp Eagle money coming in to bring it down a little bit. But can I tell you who looked really good? Like,
who's that?
Kansas City looked really good. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think Kansas City's looked good like in a while. I thought they looked terrific.
They look terrific, absolutely. It's something about when they know they're going to give up points and they just no matter what, then you get the best version of the Mahomes and the Kansas City offense because they most of the time they're happy to win the game 24-13 or whatever, 21-13.
But you know what? It was like it was Mahomes and Worthy, and then whoever else was Hunt had obviously a nice game, but it was Mahomes had a great freaking game. Kelsey wasn't really doing his thing, whatever, but that's what Kansas City is, You got
the Xavier Worthy revenge because he was pissed off at the Bills not drafting him, and it worked. Sometimes it works.
Yeah.
And they almost double Eagles. I played. It looked like it was going to happen at the first drive. Felt great because I had Zacchaeus in the 44-44, and he had the 4 targets early, and then Ertz is going. So that was my stack with Daniels instead of using McLaurin. And I thought I was going to be into some business if things kept going, but Just couldn't happen.
Did anybody play my Will Shipley?
By the way, you were the first person I thought of. What a crazy thing to get there. So in the showdown, he was 1% owned, and he was on the winner. Of course.
Yeah, but he was 1% owned, but he was duped like a bunch of times because it was a specific type of lineup that got you him.
That's right. They ran the train with it. That's right. All right. Nice. TJ said he won 5K. That's nice. All right. All right. So I'm just rebuilding because I think that we're updating the Boston stuff here, and
okay,
it's always tough with Boston, because somebody's gonna. It's really hard to figure out whose night it's going to be, especially in a tough game here with Houston. So I think it's probably going to end up like Porzingis, Tatum, and Brown will probably just look a little bit better than they did before. Maybe a little bit of Pritchard, but Horford is in, so it's not like because Derek White and what's his name are out that it's necessarily going to be screaming value. But I do think it's gonna be something you could do some business with.
So Howard is out.
So
Hauser and Jaylen Brown.
Hauser and Derek White.
Hauser and Jaylen and Derek White. Okay.
Yeah.
So I imagine, like you said, well, we'll see. But I mean, the easier things to say is that Jaylen Brown will get a big update, as will Porzingis, like you said, and Tatum. It's like
tough matchup in a really good real life game. I don't think for people who don't pay attention. I mean, Houston's a really good basketball team.
So this is what I was thinking about. I mean, I did a pretty in-depth thing at noon today for people, and it seems as though there's just two main ideas here. Okay, because you have Jokic projected like 15 points higher than the next guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So the two main questions are, well, the one main question is do you play Jokic? Is there enough value for you to play him? And what I was talking about earlier today was that, the value in and of itself didn't look great, but when you combine it with Jokic, it might make sense. So I was talking about guys like, well, we'll get to the late games in a minute, but we Ty Jerome, and then you get to the later games like Patrick Williams, even Grady Dick from Toronto. What was I talking about? Like just Keontae George and like those types of pairing. And then someone else brought up, and while I was recording, obviously, Trae Young was ruled out. So I just presumed that there was going to be something showing up for Atlanta, which I haven't even looked at yet. So that was one way to do it. But the other way to do it was to not play Jokic. And to not play Jokic, to me, took on two different views. One way to not play Jokic is to like try to match him sort of by playing guys like either Cat or I thought of Tatum, but mostly Cat, even AD, and like really from the exact same position. You realize you're not going to get as many, but like be competitive enough where you could, make up for the lack of value by doing that. And the other one that just threw out in the mix was Sabonis. But then the other way to do it was to go like the mid-range guys, okay? And that involved guys like Westbrook, Jamal Murray, even like D'Angelo Russell, guys in that kind of price range. So I think those are the three main builds. Like either like Jokic with some cheapos, try to pivot to another 10K guy, or just screw them all and play the 7Ks, whatever. Now we're gonna have to see what the Boston news kind of does to all that. But that's what I'm kind of struggling with. Like right now, like I'm building right now, I'm getting like 45% Jokic and like 50% Patrick Williams, like for example. But then I'm also getting 45% D'Angelo Russell, as I mentioned before. And then
I love this Russell idea.
Yeah.
I'm super in on this. I bumped his projection up a healthy amount. I think it's too low. I mean, what do we need to see in a fast-paced game against Sacramento at home with no other shot creators? What are we doing by not playing him? So I'm very much with. I love the Russell, D'Angelo Russell, then Russell Westbrook, and then Gafford. And as you mentioned, if you want to go Jamal Murray, that makes some sense. I like your Cat idea a little bit. But I think if you get that balanced range, for me, those are the Jordan Poole is another one.
Yeah.
Sarr I actually think Sarr is being underprojected, so I bumped him up a pretty healthy amount. Kayshawn George is the value you could use, but again, if you do the balance build, you don't need as much. And then, of course, your guy has used to be my guy, but you're the one who's winning all the money with him these days is PJ Washington.
Yeah.
I just am tempted to keep going back right back to that one. The other spend up that's interesting is Kyrie, especially on FanDuel. His price makes a lot more sense. So those are sort of my, not cores, but those are the ones I was looking at. And this Atlanta situation is pretty interesting, which is why I think you might want, because we don't, for some reason, I don't understand this projection on Keaton Wallace. First of all, the last time the guy started, he put up 50 some odd fantasy points or whatever it was. Why doesn't he look better than he does right now? And on top of it, we also have Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance, DeAndre Hunter, and Reese Shea all questionable. So I think that Keaton Wallace is one that I'm just going to gamble with, and I'm just going to give him a nice projection no matter what for right now. The game doesn't start for a while, but I don't see why he should be projected at, at 17 fantasy points. All we've seen, the one time he gets his opportunity, is that he put up 50, he put up 53. Like that's good enough for me to take a shot at him even in a bad matchup. So assuming that he does start, especially if Daniels is out, Keaton Wallace is probably the best piece of value that may not project that way at the moment. So I bumped up the later games. And like you said, all we have to really deal with right now is these first games. By the way, I want to say what's up to Scott McCarty. He's back with us. We love Scott. He's been around for a while, and we did a coaching thing with him. But I owe Scott a call as well, and really, really good dude. But these first games and all the ones that I like from the early games are actually maybe a little. I like Anthony Davis a lot tonight. He's another pivot off of the Jokic. I think center is extremely strong. I think you want to play centers in most of your utility. And I think that Anthony Davis is a terrific option. Other than that, just got to a little bit of Dalton Connect in the early game. And on the Charlotte side, I was tempted to do something here because I actually feel like this is the kind of game where LaMelo might be the other kind of spend up you could go for at no ownership. I could see him just ball out. Now it's tricky with the coach because he'll just like sit people for a while, anybody, including LaMelo. I actually like their coach quite a bit. But I think LaMelo is kind of interesting at low ownership against these Lakers because the Lakers just don't have anybody who can guard a wing player or anybody on the perimeter, really, for that matter. So I think this could be a big LaMelo game. But again, I'm still only getting like 5% of it, but he's, projected to be 1% owned. So it's more than the field. And the other center thing you could do is the Jalen Duran. I'm currently at like 12%. I'm probably going to X out this Hardaway play that looks okay at the time because I don't like that. I would rather not play any Tim Hardaway if it was up to me, and it is up to me. So, and then for me, it was on the Cleveland side. I do think Ty Jerome is in play. I don't love that. I think he's going to be more popular than he's being projected to be. But I think I think that like it's the kind of matchup where the blowout seems very possible, even though Detroit's played really well this year. Ty Jerome will get those minutes off the bench. He's been really good. So he's one of those things where you're afraid if you don't have him that you could actually, he might be the guy you need. But I personally would rather play Keaton Wallace than Ty Jerome. So I'm like with the field with Ty Jerome. Those are my early game thoughts personally.
So what do you think of the revitalization, whatever, of Bogdan Bogdanović with these guys out?
I mean, it's going to look, I think it's Wallace is the answer, but
I guess so. Huh?
If he starts, I mean, I just don't know why we wouldn't assume something's wrong to me with these projections. I'm just saying, and it's not ours; it's everywhere.
Well, you know what I mean. Like you said, I mean, we are going to get starters, and if Wallace starts, he's going to get jammed, right? I mean, like
I think so, but especially if Dyson Daniels is out, I don't know how we don't do it. Now they've got plenty of bodies in Atlanta, but I think that's a really strong play. So I'm going to rebuild it. I bumped his projection on. Oh, they bumped it up a little bit. It was at 18. It was at 17 a minute ago. Now it's at 20, and I bumped it. I made it 25. So he's the best point per dollar play on the slate because I think that's a really. I don't even think it's a pretty conservative projection, especially if Dyson Daniels or any of those other guys are out. They have 4 more guys still questionable. Remember, and if he starts, of course, that's the other telling factor. But as of right now, I actually have Gafford as my highest owned player. Are you getting to Gafford much?
Yeah, you get a lot.
Yeah, it's also the revenge, and it's Washington who can't guard the big. It's like everything sort of seems like it's lined up for him. Both LeBron and AD are officially in, which we knew was coming. Okay. Lakers playing much better basketball overall lately, so LaMelo might have to.
He makes you connect as he's been getting in.
Yeah, he's been. He played 23 minutes in the last game. He doesn't really do. I mean, for fantasy purposes, you really just need him to make shots. But I don't think we need to use that value because the other stuff we have. Like again, I have a few percentage of him. I just don't think we need to go there. There's other guys who I think make more sense. I actually think and sort of the same thing with Finney Smith. I just think there's better options later that are good. We're going to find out about, especially in Atlanta. And I did rerun with the current Boston stuff. And I do think, let me just see if they really haven't updated much, to be honest with you. So I don't think it's actually
an update, or they haven't improved.
All the projections are the same.
Right. Okay.
I thought, it probably will come in the next few minutes or so. That would be my guess.
There's no new starters, are there? I mean,
so for Boston, yeah, it'll probably be it'll probably just be they slide Horford in.
Okay.
Yes. Let me just double check my because they can play with, because I mean, I would guess they would slide Horford in. That would probably be it. And he's 4,100, by the way. I mean, it's not like a guy we love to play because he doesn't, but it's a pretty reasonable price. But probably maybe look at Pritchard or something. But I really think it's mostly just a boost for Holiday, Brown, Tatum, Porzingis. I just think it's a boost to them. That's what I've got. Okay, so let's see. So Brendan is asking an interesting question. Why is Kaishan George getting a ton of ownership? Because there's not a ton of value.
Yep.
And and also that's what I like about the Kaishan George is that's a later game. So it's 3,700, but you know, look, if you're playing NBA, you better be ready to swap, late swap. And Kaishan George is currently I'm getting 40% of them, but it's because I can do the late swapping.
Well, the real answer to your question on why Keyshawn George is getting so owned is because Nikola Jokic is projecting 17 points higher than everybody else.
That's true.
And it's just missing out on those points is big. So if you could somehow get there, that would be helpful. So that's why these value plays, and I talked about that earlier today. In a vacuum, a 5x projection on a 4K guy is no big deal, right? But
right.
when you pair those 12 points with an 80 ball,
right,
it matters. There was another guy that I don't know if he's still showing up that I use as an example. Even someone as weird as Trey Lyles or something, showed up for me, at least conceptually. Guy can get 12 or something like that, and only, what is he, 3,100 or something like that, and power forward eligible. Even guys like that can show. Who? I'm getting some of this Rob Dillingham, for example.
Yeah, and that's sort of like a wild card flyer to take. I don't think it's I have no problem with it. I don't want to speak for it or against it. And also, I like that it's a later game. I like Dillingham as a play. I believe in him as a player, but I don't know. He's still pretty. There's still Nickeil Alexander-Walker before him, but he did. He's been really good. He just hasn't played more than 19 minutes. And it's totally possible that in this game he plays 6 minutes. You never know with them. But they also there's some blowout potential with that Atlanta team being down bodies that maybe he could get the run there. And then that also brings me to the most interesting, I think, tournament dart as a somewhat of a spend up would be Anthony Edwards, just because the matchup is so good. But 9,200, it's not like you're getting a great price on him, and it's also the game may not stay close. But I kind of like the idea of gambling on that. And Scott's asking an interesting question here. So if you gamble and boost Keaton's projection and find out he's not starting, what's the move? Well, it's pretty basic. I think one I would trust the swaps, but I also it depends on who else isn't playing. If Dyson Daniels isn't playing and if he's not starting, I'll just take the gamble anyway. I'm good with it. If Dyson Daniels is playing my bet is one of those other guys sit for Atlanta, whether it be Daniels, Reese Shea, what's his name, DeAndre Hunter. I'm just going to guess that one of those guys is out, and that should open up for Keaton Wallace, who, by the way, NBA.com is projecting to start today. And he was spectacular at his only other start. I don't know why they wouldn't start him, but I think the move is to still stick with him if one more guy from Atlanta is out. If he doesn't start and nobody else is out for Atlanta, I think I still might take a gamble. Probably be more in the 20% range though, instead of I might end up 75% if he starts.
Why would Trey get ruled out and these other guys remain questionable?
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. They announced that, and the Dyson Daniels was a late day downgrade
Oh,
to questionable. So was Duncan Robinson for Miami.
Did
And they
LeBron,
already
did LeBron play yesterday or the day before? Whatever.
I don't think they played yesterday. There was only one game, I think, yesterday.
Yes, the day before that they gave LeBron had a late day downgrade or something. I was wondering if it actually played.
LeBron's, yeah, that's weird. So okay, they did update the Boston projections for what it's worth. They have, but nobody like going crazy standing out. Like you have Drew Holiday at 5.1x, Peyton Pritchard at 5.12. I think that they're totally fine. I kind of like the idea of maybe gambling a little bit on one of those guys, but I don't think you have to do it. Nothing you have to do is the way I would put it. But I do think that I'd probably be more inclined to just like if I ended up with Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, I'm not going to feel bad about it. Jaylen Brown, especially at 7,500, that's starting to get to a really reasonable price for him. And an earlier question:
what if they started somebody else?
What if they started somebody else?
Yeah. What if they started like Luke Cornett or something?
I still don't think I would. Let me just double check his price. I remember his price being bumped up.
It's the same as Horford. It's 4,100.
Oh yeah, but he's center only.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't think I would get there, but maybe I would.
Porzingis, Holiday, Pritchard can't start.
He might. They like to keep things in their role. Like when this has come up before, it's been either Hauser or Horford who started. And Hauser's out also, so it's been Horford in those situations.
Right.
And I want to just touch on real quick. TJ asked a question earlier. We would like Naz Reid or McDaniels. And Naz Reid is always a good tournament play when he's not getting ownership, especially against a team that's as bad as Atlanta. I in general, I like Jaden McDaniels a lot as a real life basketball player. He is not a guy I ever try to put in lineups. He's had, and I know where this question's coming from. It's just because Jaden McDaniels put up huge games recently. Maybe there's something to it. I don't think I wouldn't cross him off if he ended up on my lineups, but I'm certainly not going out of my way to do it. Whereas I think Naz Reid, I would actually go out of my way and maybe just have a little bit of exposure. He's been getting consistently, the high 20s run, and it's a great matchup against Atlanta. So all of those guys are fine, but not priorities for me. It is pretty wild to see Jaden McDaniels, who he's put up his last 3 games, 33, 50, and 36.5.
Yeah.
I think one of those might have been an overtime game, but still, it's a lot. And he hasn't been below 24 in basically most of the year, only one game.
So I guess I'm just gonna keep waiting. I guess.
Yeah, I think that we got the update. I don't know if we're gonna get much more of an update until we get a starting lineup for Boston.
And like I said, and what about Atlanta though?
The one that would happen is if Pritchard ended up starting somehow, he would look like a great play. I'm pretty sure about that because his production per minute. But in a funny way, his role will be lessened because it's not like they're going to run the offense through him, Right. And they actually do run offense through him a lot off the bench, but not when he's playing with Tatum, Brown, Holiday, and Porzingis at the same time.
I'll tell you, I thought this slate was really easy when I looked at it earlier. And now all of a sudden I'm worried about it for some reason because it's Boston news. I don't know why. I mean, I think you play these freaking last 3 games, be done with it.
Yeah.
You play whatever you'd like from Atlanta, and then just all the Denver, Chicago, Washington, Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
You could play some one-offs in these earlier games. That's what I was looking at earlier. Like D'Angelo Russell, I think is a great play.
I think he's such a good play. I totally agree with that.
I didn't find anybody from Orlando, Miami. I thought Cat was reasonable. I thought Grady Dick was an okay value play, but that was pretty much it. Boston, Houston, I didn't like anybody until this news came out. Cleveland, Detroit, you could play Ty Jerome, I guess, right? But it's not like it's forced.
Right.
And Lakers, Charlotte, I don't know. AD, decent, I suppose. Rather not play him early, but so it's I think he's a good play. Late game, I think. I don't know. Late games.
Yeah. I think AD is a pretty good play. As much as I love Mark Williams, that just defending the bigs is definitely a weakness of theirs. AD's been really good lately, and I actually read something that really upset me by somebody I respected that was talking about how LeBron is still the best Laker. I'm like, I don't know if anybody who watches the Lakers play anybody could have that take.
Everybody knows it's Dalton Connect.
I think Anthony Davis is having an insane, an incredible year. It's being very overlooked. And LeBron, look, he's been great offensively. He's still the worst statistical defensive player in the NBA. That's half of the game, man. I just can't ignore it. Favorite bull? Carmen's asking on DK.
Okay, that's a good question. All right, so it depends. Again, back to my question. So, are you looking to play Jokic? If you're going to play Jokic, the answer is like some Patrick Williams, probably. If the answer is you don't want to play Jokic, then you can play the others. You play Giddy, play Levine, play whatever.
Yeah, I would say Lonzo and Giddy are my two favorites.
Lonzo, how about Lonzo? I didn't think of that.
I bumped him up personally as well. But again, I'm going to let things do their things afterward. But I just want to make sure I get ahead on this Lonzo train. They started him, and I've always been a big Lonzo guy, and I think that he's got a lot more of a ceiling than we've seen so far, just because the minutes have been limited. I think that once those minutes start to creep up to 27, 28, you're going to see some 40 pluses pretty regularly.
Would you play Larry Nance? I wouldn't play him if all these guys are in, right? I mean, like.
No, not if they're in. He still might be out too, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I see that. But
I don't think I can get
who are in. I mean, why would I want to play?
The reason why he would make like some just logical sense to play minutes tonight is just because Minnesota always basically has two bigs on the court, and they don't love to. Atlanta doesn't love to play Okongwu and Capella together. But I'm getting a pretty good amount of these Bulls, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah. And you're right. Like, it depends on what type of build you have. But overall, I have right now, I've got, let me just refresh this. I've got Giddy 25%. I've got Lonzo 25%. I've got Jalen Smith 8%. Saberson loves certain players. They love Jalen Smith. Every look, they always love him.
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something really funny. I may have told this story before, but when I was really into like the projections and knowing who's projecting what for who and the different sources and the different whatever, I was really tracking like in all of it. And there was, for those of you guys who remember Daily Roto,
yeah,
they were there with Leone and Pacheco and Davis was there too, whatever. They, for like a full year, maybe even a year and a half, would always give me 35% Joe Ingles. Like, regardless of who was in the game or whatever, he always projected higher for Daily Roto than anybody else. And it was a mystery to me. I dove into all of the underlyings, and unfortunately, Daily Roto didn't put like the all the underlying metrics. I thought there'd be something, and I emailed him, I texted him a couple of times, and I got the usual, leave me alone. You know what I mean? Like, mind your own business. Yeah. You know what you're talking about. But it was literally for a whole year. Like, if you run like, and Daily Roto is one of the few places that let you run like the straight optimal without like changing anything, DraftKings or whatever. And for whatever reason, Joe Ingles was always in all the lineups, and I could never figure out why.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. To
this day, I think it was just an error in their spreadsheet, which they never looked at.
Probably. By the way, Jalen Suggs was ruled out, and I'll tell you what that does for me. I don't need to look at much else. It does mean we're probably going to have to think about like Black. I don't know if with this at 5,100.
Got Queen again?
No, I don't think we have to go that far. I think the answer is Banchero.
That is a good answer.
I think he's a terrific play, and look, it's just a matter of him. Like, he was horrendous. I think it was Friday that I played him, but he just had just a terrible game. He's coming off. He played 39 minutes. They finally they've been saying 30 to 32 minutes. Then they let him play against Detroit 39 minutes. That's all I need to know. I think that Banchero is now like one of the best spend ups. Now, it's not a great matchup against Miami, but
it isn't.
His usage is phenomenal. Wagner is still, working his way back. I think I'd be surprised if you don't see 50-ish range for Banchero tonight. That's where I'm at. And I also think that it's probably a little too soon for Wagner, although he's just really freaking good. But like, it's crazy. You look at these usage, they both had a 38+% usage in the last game. That's like all the offense goes through those two guys. So that's especially with Suggs out. So that's I think the answer.
That is a very big deal.
Yeah. And he hasn't been playing, but like we haven't had the minutes. We haven't had the minutes from Banchero. Now we're going to get the minutes. So I'm very into that play personally.
And these go two ways. Like this, this one could either be completely ignored or one of those guys could get totally jammed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Banchero thing might be sneakier than.
I think so.
I think that's a good play.
Maybe one of those others, because if they start they start somebody, that guy might get ownership or something, and I think that's probably the weaker of them, like you said. I think
right.
Yeah, I like it actually. Maybe Wagner though.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly possible with Wagner. All right, let's see what else is there. Gonna get out of here in a few minutes so I can update my exposures, but we would like to see some updated projections from Orlando. But I whether they bump him up much or not, I'm just gonna make Banchero's number like around 46 or 47. Because I think that's really that really just should be just his median without Suggs, basically all the time.
Has he ever? So he's beginning his minutes again.
He got 39 minutes on Saturday, and
that's funny.
Funny, yeah. Give me 39 minutes of him, and we're locked and loaded. We're ready to go. I love that guy. I have a basketball crush on the entire Orlando Magic team. I just think that they're the only team I see really like doing everything completely differently than anybody else. And they play their they play all the games in the low 100s like it was whatever 20 years ago. And
it's not necessarily good for fantasy though.
No, but all the usage goes to Suggs, to Wagner and Banchero. And I've just been waiting for them to lift and see the one Banchero big minutes game, and that's all I needed to see. And Wagner played 30 minutes for what it's worth as well.
But it's not like a back-to-back or anything, like you said. Nobody played yesterday, right?
Right. Yeah. So I think this is a really strong play. I'm really talking myself into it even more. All right, interesting question from OA. On a large slate, do you cap team ownership to 2 or 3 unless someone is missing and value opens up? The answer is I don't cap ownership of a certain team. I think that there's situations where there's guys out where you're going to end up playing 5 guys from a team or 4 guys from a team. Just you have to sort of swallow it. But on these big slates, I would prefer not to be playing like 3 guys from teams that I feel like are sort of all fishy value. Like I don't want to play like if I'm playing like I don't want to play like what's his name like the guys for Detroit. Like I don't want to play Tim Hardaway with Tobias Harris and Asar Thompson. Unless Tobias Harris is out, then I would consider. I don't want to play Tim Hardaway. Period. I think here comes the X button, Tim Hardaway. So if he has a good night, then I might be behind the 8 ball a little bit here. Just gonna cap max exposure 0. There we go. I don't think I need to. I don't remember the last time I felt bad about fading Tim Hardaway.
Yeah.
So here's the incoming Tim Hardaway makes 6 threes game.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
It's been a while.
I have just not seen that in a long time.
Yeah, he had one crazy game this year where he made like 7 threes.
Did he really?
Yeah, against Toronto. Other than that, he's done nothing that's going to make me afraid of fading him. And if it's against the Cavs that he happens to do it, so be it. I guess if Tobias Harris is out, I would consider.
Yeah, really? What the hell?
We'd like to know about Tobias Harris.
Cleveland, though? I mean, like.
Oh, Harris is in.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't worry about that then. Okay.
No more about that one. Hardaway starting, of course. I would prefer the Asar Thompson play to the Hardaway. This guy's got a ceiling that we don't even know yet. Like it's both these Thompson twins are
hey, very good.
Freaks.
See what you did there?
What's that?
Thompson twins.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
They're awesome. When I can play them together, I usually go for it, but I don't know if I can get to Amen tonight.
I mean the band Thompson Twins from the 80s.
Oh. God, see, you're way ahead of me.
Hold me.
Yeah, so Jason Dixon asking, are we playing Keaton Wallace? I am. I bumped his projection up. I want to see the starting lineup, but I'll have time to do that with late swap. But I think Keaton Wallace is a terrific tournament. I mean, I don't even think it's a tournament play, to be honest with you. If Dyson Daniels ends up out, I don't know how this guy is not going to be like 1,000,000% owned. Look, it's 1 game sample size, but right now I've got 91% Keaton Wallace to give you an idea. So I am not fading him at the moment. All right, I'm just going to take a quick look and see if they haven't updated the Magic yet. That's probably going to take a little bit, but I think the main idea though is like these first games, other than AD, I'm fine with AD. I don't think I need to play anything. Look, if I end up with like a % or 2 on Connect or Christie or LeBron, it's not going to be bad. I think LaMelo is kind of interesting, but I'm not really getting to it. I just think I could see him in this matchup. And the Detroit side, I do like Duran a little bit, but there's a lot of center options, and I like Asar a little bit. I always like Asar.
Anything on Atlanta yet? Let's see.
And then the Ty Jerome, I think that's the one I'm going to end up getting less of, which worries me a little bit. But I think I'm just going to go the Keaton Wallace route and just take my gamble there. Oh, what's it? It's the question I get to ask the most these days, Sheets. I get DMs all the time. What did I do to treat myself for the big one? I've done nothing yet.
You're putting another entry in the alley-oop.
Yeah, I'm playing 2 entries in the alley-oop and 2 entries on the monster. So instead of 1. But we'll see. Once things settle down a little bit and end of football season, I'll sort of reevaluate and see if there's probably going to go on a trip with some people. That's probably that's my favorite thing to do. I prefer spending money on experiences over items.
Sounds good to me.
All right, I'm probably going to get out of here. Is that cool with you, man?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Good luck to everybody tonight, and I will update in Discord my exposures and everything.